Lonely Island Audio.
And now, it's time for the Bod Rap Pod with your hosts, Demone Carter, David Ma, and Nate LeBlanc.
Three underground rap nerds walked into a bar. An argument ensued about who the GOATs are. The seed was a thought that would turn into a pod. Now fans worldwide say, not a bad job, the ad hoc cab squad who chronicles the vanguard of hip-hop at large. Rap taste slacked off, don't need to be mad, dog. Look no further, it's the Bod Rap Pod. Podcasting live from San Jose, California, it's the Bod Rap Pod. I am 1/3 of your host, Demone Carter, aka Dem One. I am joined by my man in all black, looking like he's about to audition for Dead Presidents, the movie, David Ma. What's happening, man?
Hey, good to see you guys again. I do have black circles under my eyes, like you know. So
it's not corpse paint. That's just a long weekend.
Yes, sir.
Exactly,
yes, sir.
Exactly.
Great to have you here, my friend. Also joined by my man's in the Motorhead tee. It's Mr. Nate LeBlanc. What's happening?
You know, it's funny. Paulo Cutso Cuddy Mart made these shirts, and it's so funny to for me of all people to be promoting Motorhead. You know what I mean? Like it's a Motorhead reference. I know nothing about Motorhead other than that Ace of Spades is a pretty cool song and Lemmy is some kind of badass legend, but I've literally never listened to Motorhead in my life, so it's funny to think that about myself. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's kind of like
I don't know motors. I don't know how to fix cars. Like it's outside my wheelhouse.
Literally,
just promoting Head.
Of course, the famous Monkeys film Head, directed by Bob Rafelson, who just passed away.
Of course, that's what I
deep
thought.
Film reference.
Yeah, that's what. That's where my mind went. But yeah, that's
Head, Pumpkinhead.
We need to have a head bracket. This sounds like a 16-team tournament. There are quite a few heads that need to go head to head. Perhaps Cuddy Mark can sponsor the head Final Four. But that's just one of the many things that you come to this podcast for. One thing that I think people really actually come to this podcast for is to discover new music, which we put people onto a couple things. Dave, what is the main rap album artist that you try to push on people? Who's your go-to when people are like, oh, who should I listen to? What's good?
Yikes. It really depends on the person, man. You know what I mean? If it's a younger person, then I'm like, check out this older Tribe album. You know what I mean? Or if it's like an older person, I might be like, check out this newer album, sort of. And today I know we're talking about the Infinity Knives King Cobra album, which is stellar. Shout out to Nate for giving me the heads up on that one.
Yeah, because that's Nate's new one.
I'm pushing that on everyone. And if I have your contact info, you have heard about this album from me. I think it's time to take it to the people. Let's talk about it on the actual platform we have where we recommend people music all the time, right?
Yeah. And I also got the recommendation of the King Cobra album by Infinity Knives and Brian Ennals from you. And it just kind of made me think about that role that we play in our friends' lives. I think it just used to be in our friends' lives, right? And now I'm like, oh, I have a whole ass podcast, but I'm still obsessed with like texting people randomly to go listen to Koreatown Oddity or something like that. You know what I mean? Like
right. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, I'm kind of.
He's definitely one, and I feel like I am liking the new album. I mean, we don't have to get into a whole thing here, but I feel like I'm liking the new album a little bit more than other people. Are you guys digging the new Koreatown Oddity?
Koreatown Oddity. What's the title of it?
I didn't know, something like that.
Are we done yet? Are we there yet?
Right. I gave it a cursory listen. It was kind of all over the place, but it's something that I did want to go back to. You know what I mean? So he remains interesting enough for me to want to go back to it, and I wasn't turned off by it immediately. But it's definitely not Lil Dominique's Nosebleed.
Yeah,
you know what
for
I mean?
sure.
Is this for real?
Is this for real? All caps, one word, question mark.
And it's I think a great album title because you're kind of like, is this for real? Like, are you really committing to the bit?
He commits to the bit. Extent? That's what I like about it, actually. I think some of the songs are really good, but as a, I don't know if you consider it an EP or an album length commitment to this bit that he is actually a British person is just a fascinating thing to do right now in this cultural moment with all the cachet that he had just built up with this amazing cinematic concept album to come back with this. It's like, wow. I'm fascinated. I think it's I don't know if it's good. I know it's interesting. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I stand with it right now.
Well, I think in 2022 rap, those are almost synonymous. If you can do something at this point to make people go, I'm not sure if I heard that before. So yeah, definitely I would recommend people run it once. That's what I'm telling my friends and family about Koreatown Oddity. It's like, I'm not giving this to you as like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. But like, if you like rap, if you listen to Bizarre Ride or some shit like that, and you enjoy zaniness, you should give Is This For Real at least one run. And I honestly, I think I've only listened to like 1.5 times. I haven't been back. But
as you guys know, when I send people music, I'm either like, this is amazing, or I'm curious what you think of this.
Right.
And the second one is like, I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it's interesting. And I want to know what you, as a person I trust, thinks about it so I can help wrap my head around it. You know what I mean? Is this like, sometimes when I'm talking to you guys, it's like, is this our world? Is this our lane? Is this a DBRP kind of style thing? And sometimes I just literally don't know, because I think, Demone, what you were talking about a little bit is like novelty, or the sense of ability to surprise even these like jaded listeners who put in a lot of hours here listening to beats and rhymes. And it's like, what's new, what's different? And sometimes something is so new and different, it sounds good. It's just like, is it the refreshingness that you're responding to, or the quality?
I think that's a super fair question, and one that I grapple with when I look at our peers posting and like picking up albums. I'm like, is this really good, or are we just so crusty and jaded that the only thing we can get excited about is like a garage store opening? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's every music nerd's kind of like in game, is like, at some point you're just listening to a dude like clinking a pot, and I'm making fun of this, but I find myself like listening to sound records, and
I'm fully listening to like more ambient than I used to. And like, I don't know if you guys subscribed in the wake of his appearance on our show a couple weeks ago on our Supreme Clientele episode, but Sasha Frere Jones' newsletter is chock full of like ambient, left field, experimental, like it's like the wall of recommendations at Other Music in New York in the 90s was a freaking newsletter. Like, I just spent some time on Monday clicking around, and it's like, I'm like, as a neophyte kind of ambient music listener or outsider music listener, I'm like, is this music or just sounds? To get back to your point, Demone, I'm like, these sounds are intriguing to me. What are they made from? Who are these people? Like, is this my new thing?
Totally. I mean, a weird field recording can definitely be captivating. So, but it is interesting to be like, is this just noise or what? You know?
But like, Dave, you and I, especially as like musical, like, compatriots, we didn't used to listen to field recording shit. You know what I mean? Like, it would be like unheard of. It'd be like, it's like, this ain't Ghostface. You know what I mean? It's like
Ghostface breathing for 45 minutes.
I think, to be able to get out of the need for time signatures and recognizable, repeatable elements and let my mind float. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, totally. I feel like, you get desensitized to music after a while after listening to so much of it. And so things that are new and weird and quirky are going to like grab your ear. And I think programs like ours and others are here to debate whether that's actually good. I think it goes both ways too, right? Like, a lot of the music that's like too young for us and that I personally detest, I go, but if I'm somebody 20 years younger coming along and going, that's new and different to me. Even if I'm like, that's not new and different, so-and-so is doing it. It doesn't matter. It's like, it strikes them as new and different, and it signifies a shift. And I think this record that you asked us to listen to is a bit of a shift in ways for this particular lane of rap. I've got thoughts and such, but why don't you set it up, Nate? What did you ask us to listen to, and why?
So we're talking in this segment about the album King Cobra by the rapper Brian Ennals and producer / composer, and that is a big part of the draw of this album, is his kind of anchoring in like a 20th century classical music and bringing that into independent rap in a fascinating way. But his name is Infinity Knives. They're from Baltimore, and they are friends of some of our friends. Like they're cool with the Wrecking Crew guys, and they put out an album called Rhino XXL in 2020 that I was not up on then, but I have been listening to a lot lately. And I listened to them on Call Out Culture. Shout out to Zilla and Castro and Alaska for having them on Call Out Culture. And they are some true artists who are kind of part of this seemingly very fertile scene in Baltimore. The last time I heard about Baltimore being fun was like Dan Deacon days. You guys remember when Dan Deacon was the popular thing? It was like a very like indie electronica thing with like positive affirmations and stuff, and there seemed to be all these like underground warehouse parties, and like the Be More Club stuff was coming out back then. Anyway, we don't have to get into a whole Baltimore my experiences with Baltimore history lesson, but needless to say, they're from Baltimore. They make this intensely visceral, kind of angry art rap that is about contemporary life. It's angry at the police, it's angry at the government, it's angry at taxes, it's angry at housing. It has what I think of as the appropriate level of anger about all the fuckery that's going on right now. And that those two things, which is like Infinity Knives, insane maximalism, and like kind of adept nature at weaving in different sounds that you're not used to. And then Brian Ennals' kind of prescriptions for the world ills, which essentially seems to be kind of like a fuck the pain away, party it out way to deal with all the insane bullshit that's going on right now. It just makes a captivating listen. And so when I heard about it, I wanted to make sure it was on your guys' radar, and I have sent it to other friends, and I've just been running it a lot, including another full listen today to prep. And I have to say, it's really moving me right now. I think it's important music. I think more people should be listening to it, and I'd love to talk to them someday if an opportunity ever arises. But for now, they're doing something really, really special.
Yeah, I you sent me a Bandcamp link at first, and that's always kind of like,
that was all that was available at the time.
Yeah, at the time.
To see it made it to DSPs.
Yeah, it's on DSPs
so
now.
Easier to share.
The King Cobra, but I was like, you know what? Challenge accepted. I'm gonna run it. And the first track is just not something that you would ever hear on a rap record. And to that extent, I'm like, the first track plays and I'm like, what the fuck is this gonna be? Like it gives you no, usually with rap records, and again, I'm a jaded consumer at this point. I can tell you what it's gonna be in about 30 seconds. I'm like, I know what this whole project is lining up to be, what they're going to rap about, what the beats are going to be like. You know, it's like when a Mozzie record starts and I'm like, there's going to be a Spanish guitar joint in like 4 songs from now. It's building up to that. But what I love about King Cobra is you never get comfortable. Whenever I thought I kind of had figured out where they were going with things, there's all these different kind of turns. I think Brian Ennals' raps ground this in a way. You take his raps off, this actually gets filed in another section of the record store. Like, It's very interesting. The soundscapes of it are doing one thing, and then Brian Ennals is doing something that I think ultimately grounds it and puts it in our lane. Like, it's a different approach, but not like in the Arm & Hammer style. Like, you could follow what he's saying. These are very straightforward raps in a sense. But the soundscapes that they're using are very different. And I feel like I love your comment about appropriate levels of anger. And not just angry at the same shit. Like he's Brian Ennals, what I appreciate is there's like some insightfulness and some more specificity around the things that he's
not just landlords, his landlord.
Exactly. And I transfer that to my landlord. And yeah, it kind of to the like the Baltimore-ness of it. It's a very damaged record. I've never been to Baltimore, but you know, the kind of how it exists in lore is this really tough place and one that kind of reeks of damage and urban decay, and that like really comes through on this record. It took me back to my one-time fascination with CX Kidtronic, who was also from Baltimore and kind of had a damaged sound, and I'm not sure they're at all connected, but it did take me back to that, and I feel like I've heard it bandied about a little bit as an album of the year contender, in which I initially was like, but after running it again today, it makes a strong case. It's a super unique, and I'm almost ready just to say important record. But I'm dying to know what Dave, what was your take on it?
Loved it. I even messaged Nate and thank you for sending it over. I mean, when Nate says it's one of the best albums of the year, it automatically pushes the top of my must listen to list.
If only to argue with him.
You know, I feel like the album's all over the place, and that speaks to the varied soundscapes, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Love the energy throughout. Love the little instrumental interludes too. Neath the Willow's Leaves is amazing. I love the faster pace songs with the distortion. I'm getting a lot of Alec Empire vibes, even a little bit of Gravediggers Bang Your Head vibes. You know what I mean? Just really intense, dark. But to your point earlier, the Brian Ennals, his rhymes and his writing are very accessible. I love how his frustrations go from micro to macro. And even the Coke raps. I mean, he raps as a sort of consumer, a transparent honesty as a consumer, versus like the Clips rapping about counting their bricks and their paper rolls. You know what I mean?
Right.
I loved it. I really loved the album, and yeah, I love the interludes. Listening to it again makes me want to check out the Rhino record, which Nate mentioned earlier. The song Coke Jaw is fucking amazing, and I really just love the energy. I think I'm almost positive we're going to have Brian on the show soon too. So just a heads up for all the listeners and fans of the show. Well, nice. We've been in touch.
Dave, I told Demone this. I don't think I told you this. I can't remember which thread of ours it was in. There's a Bobby Brown interpolation on the previous record. You like have to hear. It's insane.
Oh yeah.
You know how there's a Red Hot Chili Peppers interpolation on this record where you're just like, is that what they're doing right now? Or are we like really doing that right now? There's a whole song where at the beginning I was like, oh, they're doing a New Jack Swing thing. That's fun. And then I was like, no, they're interpolating a very specific song that I'm not gonna like snitch out here. And it's like they're doing not a cover, but like an interpolation of that specific song. And I love that song from when I was a little kid. So to hear it brought into the future in that way is fascinating. So I wanted to pick up on something that you guys are saying, and it kind of, we kind of tend to value and put forth of what we think is really quality is like a dense poetic lyricism, right? Like there needs to be twists and turns and, what were we calling it? Crypticness, right? Like we kind of prize a writing that takes several passes to understand. But it's nice when someone is so clearly such an excellent rapper and they're speaking in plain language and like just saying what is on their mind. Like I don't actually feel like completing a rhyme or a rhyme scheme is the primary goal here. It's like it's an expression of the feeling of it, generally speaking, kind of an anger about the way that things are going. But it's just fascinating to hear something that makes you rethink what you think is important right now. So super into this record. Think it's really good. I'm curious, like, since it's not these few artists that we've been really fucking with lately, like, can it crack the end of the year list? There's still some time left in the year, right?
Yeah, no, there definitely is, and I worry about this way too much. I think what this record has going for it in that regard is it is not as much of a prestige record in that way. There are some established artists which we love and who are the best rappers on the planet, and there's kind of a method now to it. There's a way to roll it out. There's a way to present what I call prestige rap, and that's not a pejorative. Like, it's important rap, and it's also presented to you as being important. Infinity Knives and Brian Ennals is, I think, still at the level where they don't have that, and I'm going to say this delicately, pretense. It's like, no, they're just, here's the record. They had one 2 years ago. This came out. It's not presenting to you as like, oh my God, this is so damn important, but still kind of comes across important. And I'm going to use a word here that is not commonly associated with stuff that we listen to, but it is a vibe. In a similar way that Cities of Eve, Man Plays Horn is a vibe. It works to kind of respond to what you were saying about lyricism. It works because it constructs a world into which these lyrics fit and makes it super interesting. Without that construction, I'm not sure if we're having the same conversation. Like, Ennals is dope, don't get me wrong. But what makes it new and exciting is the way that it's packaged and kind of like the ideas that he's coming across, right? Like, he's like, shout out to sex workers. Like, and he said it all like hardcore, but like, you're like, okay, that's not necessarily, there are points of view here that you don't always get with rap. And I think that is what makes his voice and his approach so interesting. It isn't necessarily Billy Woods rapping off the one or Elucid giving you this like poetic language. It's like, okay, this dude seems like he's on the corner pissed, but he's like really interesting. Like, he seems like he has a dope fit on that I wouldn't be able to, like, I've never seen him. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you hear somebody, you're like, you seem like you got a dope fit on right now. Like, you're an interesting cat. And I think that's why it works in a lyrical sense. Because I was sitting there going, this is pretty straightforward attack. Like, it's and, right there in the pocket, very simple.
And to your point, Demone, I think the production really guides everything along. I mean, Infinity Knives, I mean, the different soundscapes, the energy really matches Ennals' writing, and like, it's so good. Like, I would listen to the instrumental version to sort of just see how, what the difference is. And to your point earlier about how it would be filed in a different section, I think is really, really on point.
2 points. One, do you guys get Public Enemy vibes from this? Like, do you think that's an appropriate comparison in a way? Obviously modernized pretty heavily.
Sure. I was going to say I sort of get LP vibes, and LP is certainly an extension of that lineage.
Yeah, to the kind of like damaged point of it. I hadn't thought about that, but when you're talking about polyphonic noisiness.
In the back, and then kind of straightforward in the political thought in the front, right? That's kind of where I'm coming from.
And also, like, Ennals has both energies. He's making like social commentary, but also like sniffing coke. So it's like Chuck and Flav at the same time.
Yeah. Can one be their own Flava Flav?
I've been trying.
We'll have to ask him if we talk to him. And then the second thing was, it's really beautiful, and I hadn't really noticed until I listened to it probably for the 4th or 5th time today. Demone, you mentioned at the beginning, it begins essentially with a folk song, right? Which sounds like an old song, but seems to be a new song that was written and is a part of this project. And then it resolves at the end. And that all three of it's like, it starts as this thing, you don't know what it is. And then it jumps into this crazy rap project for like, there are plenty of songs. I don't know how many there are. Like, let's go 15 songs. And then when it comes back, that same woman sings again on the last song. And I love when an album resolves itself that way, like when the thought is completed. And so it's just cool to kind of, have an album-y album that took 2 years to make and present. And it's put out on a UK label. What is it? Phantom Limb out of Brighton that I was not familiar with. I copped the wax right when I first heard it.
There is wax.
There is wax. And like, I can't tell because once you bought something on Bandcamp, it doesn't tell you how many are left, but it might still be out there. I would recommend checking it out if you want to get it, but that's, to me, that's kind of like, that's my tip of the hat, like, respect. Like, I care about this enough that I'm gonna add it to the collection. So super into this record. I just think it's needs to be heard more widely. You'll definitely hear some chatter about it among the like deep hip-hop nerds on Twitter, but I actually think like normal people would get a lot out of this.
Let's have a little exercise here. What score do you think Pitchfork would give this record, Dave Ma?
Pitchfork? Oh my goodness. I don't think Pitchfork really understands anything. And it really depends on the writer, not even Pitchfork as an entity.
Yeah, it's who they hire. Right?
So who knows? A 5? Who knows? It doesn't really matter, to be honest. What do you guys think?
I'll play. I think they would give it a 6 or like a 5.8 or something like that, because 7.3 is a hip hop 10.
No, that's right. You were saying that the other week. That is too real. I'm gonna be a Pitchfork sympathizer and say, because it has these like real non-rap elements, if the right writer got a boner about it, it could be a 7.5 or a 7.7, something like that. And hopefully that happens for them. I was gonna ask, when I was listening to it, you said Public Enemy. This record reminded me in its presentation and how I received it, like Paraffin, where I was like, Arm & Hammer had been around before, and I was like, I kind of know what that is, but it was really on Paraffin that I was like, oh, hold on now, wait a minute, and like, that's time covered in, and obviously the rest is history, but I kind of got those vibes. So hopefully this is like the beginning of a run. And we can get some more records out of them. Be dope to actually talk to Brian Ennals. Somebody went to art school. That's all I know. I'm asking questions. It's when like references are so deep and complex, you're like, I don't even get this, but I know y'all are doing something here.
Yeah. They have a very entertaining episode of Call Out Culture where they're both coming in and out of the conversation a little bit. It's like, I know we talked about this on DM, and I'll just say it briefly on the record. Like, I don't consider myself to be a prude, but I was a little shocked by all the coke talk, not only on the album but on the podcast. I was like, damn, everyone's just talking about that openly now, huh? Like, all right, you always know it's in the background. Like, you don't get a Wu-Tang record with 9 guys screaming the craziest verses you've ever heard without that, right? It's just part of the lore that is not really discussed, but it's so interesting to hear it just discussed openly as like a part of their life, a part of their day-to-day existence, their art making process, and just like it's just like not hinted around about, which I was like, interesting.
Yeah, I gotta peep that. I feel like there's certain times I got a little sense on this record that it's a signifying record, in the sense that rappers at times will be like, I do this drug, I participate in these activities to show you, to tell you like you're listening to something that's different.
Well, you've talked about this quite a bit over the life of the show, Demone, how it went from drug dealer rap to drug taking rap, and like it's like that's just the thing now. Like everybody talks about Percocet and Oxy and like all these other things that are just, I mean, they're all powder drugs, they're all hard drugs, they're all, I don't know what the legal terminology is, like class 4 drugs or whatever, but like I don't know, for some reason it just struck me as a little bit different. And like we've all met rappers and DJs and people who are in the nightlife industries, but this should not be a surprise to anyone. It was just interesting to me that it's like the cat's out of the bag.
There's still a stigma, I think.
Yeah, and there's just an energy that comes with that, and like I've heard sometimes you stay up all night and try to diagnose the world's problems.
Quotes, you guys can't see.
Yeah. Oh man. Good times. But Dave, you actually saw like actual rap this weekend in like real life. How does that happen? What's going on? Say more about this rapping outside.
I spent the weekend in Napa, which sounds kind of weird coming out of my mouth, but
famous rap hotbed.
Napa Valley Rappers Alley.
That explains it all. Good night.
I went to the Napa Valley Blue Note Festival, and I'm pretty good at managing my expectations, but it was really as epic as it was on paper. Erykah Badu was off the bill at the last minute, which sort of upset my girlfriend. But other than that, I thought it was fucking fantastic. The second I walked in there, you saw Jizza walking around unrecognized, and I was like, Jizza, and gave him a salute, and he did the prayer hands with the bow, and that already made my entrance, and that was within 5 minutes.
Dave just gets back in the car and heads back to Santa Clara.
puts on liquid swords, drives home.
Checkmate, Napa.
It was at the Charles Krug Winery, which is one of the most gorgeous venues I've ever been to. You get what you paid for, you know what I mean? It was very expensive. But not unlike the Treefort Festival that we all went to. It was very comfortable. Lots of families, huge diverse age range. Other sort of highlights was I was behind Robert Glasper, who was buying fried fish in front of me. He's very tall. So you saw Pharaoh Monch sort of pacing backstage because it was like an outdoor stage, sort of like prepping himself, and that was amazing because he just came out ferocious as you would expect. He was trying to crush and kill his stress. But the highlight was definitely Black Star. Incredible. Dave Chappelle, started off the night by saying, and he has his like quiet moments of eloquence where he's just like, this stage is populated by virtuosos, and it's like, fuck, okay, and Mos Def and Talib fucking killed it. They did all the classics, definition and the redefinition. And at one point they brought out Mad Libs, so you see Mos Def and Talib rapping, Mad Libs in the background, Dave Chappelle's dancing around them. It was like a sight to behold. It really felt like a moment. And if you read the newspapers, I guess both nights they went over Napa Valley sound ordinance requirements. So both nights it went over over an hour, and it was just a very comfortable environment. At one point, Mos was just doing this a cappella, and it's just a reminder of what a natural talent he was. Like his voice is just reverberating over tens of thousands of people, and it was one of the best festivals I've gone to. And I'm not the biggest festival type guy, you know what I mean?
But it sounds like a grown folks festival. That wasn't you in like armpits for 5 hours, right? Waiting for Kendrick to hit stage, right?
Exactly. It wasn't a bunch of shirtless meatheads. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was special, and it felt really special. It was really cool.
That's cool, man. Did it make you reconsider the more recent Black Star album? I know we kind of have not dealt with that really as the show much.
I was gonna say it did. I mean, the few songs that they did play sounded better live. Actually, I was talking to my friend John, who went with me, and hearing those Mad Lib beats super loud on outdoor speakers really changes the texture of them. You know what I mean? It's something like you appreciate more on headphones, I feel like. But this was like the flip side of that. It was like, whoa, this weird flute sample is just killing me right now.
I think one of the things that we weren't getting from like the bootleg download we had to get because we're not Luminary subscribers or whatever was it was hard to tell if Madlib actually produced the album or just sent beats. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like when you see them together, it comes a little bit more full circle. It gives more weight to it, perhaps.
Absolutely. It was really great. Could not have expected anything more. The second night Maxwell played. We just kind of hung out and just chilled because I wasn't really there for that. But seemingly epic too. I mean, the crowd was completely full. I mean, I think it sold out 3 nights in a row.
Wow.
And
again, everybody got pregnant.
It was great.
Yeah, I was about to say because you were not in the baby making business. Something didn't resonate with you. But yeah, that sounds dope, man. It makes me want to.
You guys were there.
Reconsider my anti-festival stance because I just have a particular image and memories and like I'm too old for that. But that I think I'm a appropriate age for that.
Yeah, it was a grown folks festival for sure.
Right on. If it was Grand Puma Maxwell, I would have been there.
Sipping some Maxwell House because it came on at midnight.
Well, the tickets at that price point. Yeah. Tickets at that price point. It's mostly adults that can afford it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's
gotcha. That's cool, man. I'm glad you had a good time. I know you needed some time away, and it's
I did.
I think like our entry, what do they call it? A gateway drug of doing the Tree Fort Festival kind of like opened up some new possibilities for leisure for us.
Yeah, totally. I actually saw Nate as soon as I dropped off my girlfriend, and I literally just got back from Napa in 20 minutes and saw Nate walking. Didn't even have time to connect,
and Dave was like, "God damn it! Can I get away? Can I be on vacation for 5 minutes?"
Vacation is officially over.
Nate's like, "Listen to the Infinity Knives."
Did you check out that email I sent you?
I'm hung over in Crocs right now. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. So Dave, I hope you've had a chance to detox from your weekend. Sounds like a lot of fun and making me want to kind of relitigate Black Star album if I can find the Dusty hard drive that I have it saved on.
Yes.
To
Highly
pull it up.
recommended.
All right. So very far from Napa, there's another place called Chicago. And we talked to a lot of people from Chicago. And this is
it is kind of a theme this year, huh?
Yeah, we're very
a
Chicago.
ton of Chicago people. We did Chedefsey, Boathouse, Psalm. Our next guest. Very interesting.
Yeah, if we can, our next is Chance the Rapper, and then Kanye. So
on the comeback trail.
You know what though, Dave? If there's ever a way, if you ever hear Twista's name come up anywhere near your circle, I think that'd be an amazing interview.
Speaking of another Chicago connection, Vic Spencer, we just did last week, right?
Yep.
And then there was a video of Twista listening to Mudslide that they both him and Smalls posted. That was super cool.
Man,
that's dope. So dope.
Yeah, happy for them. Happy Chicago exists as a place. Greatest American city I've yet to visit. So
we got to get out there, dude. Like we need to figure out some kind of event we can be part of, or people we could interview in person or something. It's so fun.
I think we go back with Mike and we do like a whole homecoming show. Like Mike just takes us to his different hangouts and haunts. And
that's funny. I really, really wanted to go to that show they did in June where it was Rory and Mike playing that. Like I think it was like a church, a former church venue that looked so tight. I had that whole night. I was in a bad mood. I was like, I should have the kind of life where I can go to that at the drop of a hat.
National FOMO? Damn.
Oh, yeah.
You are in a life of discontent as a San Josean. But so we talked to a bunch of folks from Chicago, and we were fortunate enough to talk to Maker, who is a producer from Chicago who recently got a huge humongous placement. But Nate, how do we know Maker? How would people identify his work?
Yeah, he has been around for a long time. He did a ton of stuff with Quell, and that's really more Dave's area of expertise. And as he showed me that stuff way back in the day, Galapagos 4. He does these amazing Now Again remix compilations that might be on your radar. He was in the band or the group Glue with ADM or Adeem that was on Fat Beats when I was a hip-hop buyer, so I have like a ton of stickers and flyers, and like they were just a very heavily promoted group when I was a buyer, so I always knew him from that. And I feel like he's friends of a couple friends of ours as well. Like he's just a cool, down-to-earth dude. But let me kick it to Dave. Like Dave, did you first hear about him when you were in high school?
Probably like the summer after I graduated. And actually, like funny San Jose story was like I believe him and some of the Galapagos 4 cats played in San Jose at the Makla, and I bought a CD and he put his hand on it and was like, "I'm Maker." And so I actually met dude in person like fucking 20 years ago or something.
Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know that.
Always been a fan of his work. I actually really like the production on the Glue album that you mentioned. I'm not a huge ADM fan. Nice guy though. But also recently, very, very nice to hear that he's working with making some songs with Edgewise, an MC from San Jose that we put out some of his stuff on Needle to the Groove. And also, if you happen to watch the show Abbott Elementary, he made the theme song. Also crazy. Very charming show as well, which is dope. Every time I see it, such a good show. Hoping he got a big bag for that one. But great producer, longtime Chicago stalwart, and just really good to have him on the show, man. He's very chill, and he's the type of dude that like, if there's a Maker remix, that's the one I want to hear.
Yeah,
he's a really skilled remixer. I've been talking to some of our producer buds in the DMs over the years, and there are some people for whom that's not part of the skill set. Like they don't. It's just like one of them. I'm not gonna. I'll tell you guys after we stop recording if you want to know who this is. But someone's telling me they were like, I don't even know how to do that. I'm like an idiot savant. I can do these 4 things, and it ends up making these beats that people seem to like, but I have no idea how to like take apart a song and put it back together with the parts. And so I was like, whoa, that's interesting, because I hold that person in pretty high esteem, and you kind of assume people have these things in their bag, but they don't necessarily. It's just everybody's different. And Maker has made a lot of music that I really like, and like I think for an underground hip-hop aesthetic, his stuff generally has a bounce. to it. And like that is a very
Mhm.
prized quality when you're trying to like live life to something. You know what I mean? It's like, let me get a little energy
Absolutely.
to this. It is not
Yes.
that tarot card beatless swoopy thing. It's
Yeah.
different. It's from a different school. And I would assume he has a
Yeah.
pretty crazy record collection based on the stuff that he has sampled and how his stuff sounds. So
100%. I mean, his beats definitely there's an obvious overt element of construction to it. You know what I mean? There's movement to it, and like you said, I mean, it's not just on some like weird underground shit. You know what I mean? It's fucking very. I would even say accessible. You know what I mean?
And that's probably how we got that great placement. It's been a great time
Amazing.
for placements. I want to give a quick shout out to another Chicagoan who I hope we can have on the show, Serengeti, whose music has been prominently featured in The Bear. Whoever's doing the music direction on that, I shout out to you, sir or ma'am. So yeah, let's get into it. Our Chicago fetish continues. This is our interview with Maker here on Bod Rap Pod. Every week we talk to people who are moving and shaping hip hop culture. This week is no different. Joining us in Zoom, we have Maker. What's happening, man?
What up, fellas? How's it going?
Just hanging in there. It's hot as shit. Where are you joining us from?
I am in the suburbs of Chicago.
Okay, right on. Yeah, so thanks for coming on the program. Let's just kind of start at the beginning. Like, what were your initial creative influences that led you to get on this path that you've been on?
I was in the streets, you know, doing hood rat stuff with my hood rat friend, and I got into graffiti, and that changed everything, you know, because everyone was doing bad stuff in the streets, and I was just like, all right, this is cool, let's try it. But then I just wasn't that good. So I was, you know, some of my buddies were DJing. I started messing with them, and then we started messing with samplers, and you know, I just kind of naturally went that way, looking for some other way to be, you know, to do something cool. Yeah, and then that, you know, from DJing, and that kind of led to me making beats, and then yeah, I never looked back.
Okay, right on, man. Well, just moving the chronology forward just a little bit. I mean, you know, early 2000s, everything was popping off. You know, the Galapagos 4 era, typical cats, your stuff with Denizen and Quell, and you know, if you can just think back and sort of give us a sense of the profusion and activity that kind of surrounded you during this time, like during your come up, like what was that like?
Man, it was a special time, you know, like typical cats just kind of came out and just started, you know, blowing everything out of the water. And, you know, before that, like listening to Mole Man and All Natural and EC Illa and like all the dudes that were around before, you know, it was like an exciting time. And, you know, I met so many people going up to the time travel show, NUR with Kevin Beecham and those guys, you know, like a lot of people met there. Yeah, it was just like a special time, man. And like everyone was excited, you know, and being able to meet all those guys and work with them was a great time, you know. I had my crew, TBA, Them Bad Apples, and you know, like we were doing stuff, and it was just like crews everywhere, you know, and like meeting up, and you know, black book sessions and parties, and yeah, it was a good time.
That's cool, man. That's definitely how I first heard about your work. I think you it seemed from the outside you were kind of like one of the in-house producers for a kind of a crew of MCs, and then you eventually settled in and did a lot of work with Quell. Dave has always been a big Quell fan. I've seen him perform many times. His freestyles are incredible. Like, can you talk a little bit about your guys' chemistry and your working process together?
Yeah, man, me and Quell go back. I met him through Meaty, actually. Meaty's the homie, and like we just clicked, and like we liked each other's music. And that first album we did, The Harvest, came around the same time that I was doing stuff with ADM and Glue. And so it just kind of like all popped off at the same time. And then around the same time too, I released Shooting the Breeze as well. And yeah, like, I don't know, that's one of my best friends. Like he's the homie, and it was a lot of fun work with. It still is, like we still talk all the time. And hopefully got some new music coming out soon. But yeah, like at that time when we first started working on music, man, like it was just really exciting. And like when we made that album, like, I don't know, it's kind of weird, but like it felt like, looking back at it now, like we had no idea what we were doing. We were just like, let's make stuff, like there was no guidelines or like, we got to do hooks and verses and like, nah, we just like recorded it in Meaty's, in his closet, and like we were just having fun, what I mean? And like it progressed from there. Like if you go back and listen to that, and then to like the last record we did, like you could hear it, what I mean? But it always stayed fun working together. That's why we still do.
That's awesome. You have a deep catalog, and I wanted to know a little bit about your process. Are you like a beat a day type of person, multiple beats a day? Do you kind of work in projects? Like, what's your workflow like?
Yeah, I don't have like a set process, man. Like sometimes I'm feeling it and I'll just knock out a bunch of stuff, and then sometimes I won't make anything for a couple of weeks. I don't like to force it. When I force it, the beats just, it feels like there's no soul in them, So yeah, it just kind of goes on how I'm feeling,
Yeah, right on. You've done a bunch of interesting remixes as well. Can you talk a little bit about your approach on a remix as opposed to like a new song you're working on with somebody?
Yeah, I love doing remixes. The approach it's different, but it's the same. Like when you're doing a remix, you could hear something that's already been done and try to put your own, your own stamp on it versus something that creating new. And like, for example, my homie DJ True and myself, we have a crew called Alter Tapes, and we just do like remixes for DJs. That's, we started off doing it for ourselves, and like that became a really fun process because we were taking classics that already exist and trying to put our own spin on them. And I think actually made me a better producer, because I got to see it in a different way, and then so working on remixes for other people, like, I don't know, it's actually fun for me. Sometimes like I end up doing that with songs, or I'll start doing an original song with someone, and in the process end up creating something totally new halfway through because I hear something else, or I liked what I started with, but I want to take it somewhere else because they took it somewhere else, so the back and forth is fun too. But yeah, it's either way. Like it's good. It's fun.
Right on. Thank you for explaining that. Just right then you're sort of talking about your approach to remixes, but at this point, you're a veteran producer, man. So I kind of want to see, has your view towards production changed through the course of the last 20 years, or has it not? Can you sort of give us a little insight into that?
Yeah, I mean, like my view on production for myself hasn't changed. Because I'm at the end of the day, I just do what I like, but like my view on other people's production has changed because I feel like every day you learn something new, production wise, engineering wise, new producers coming out all the time, doing new things. So I'm always like listening to new music and, kind of following those trends and hearing what people are doing. But still at the end of the day, like I'm just doing what I like. You know what I mean? So
right.
I'm definitely feeling all kinds of other stuff. And it's really interesting hearing new stuff, or even going back to old stuff and hearing things that I didn't hear before, and techniques and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. At the end of the day, I just do what I like.
Right. Certainly. But I was more sort of trying to puncture the mystique a little bit. Like, has your do you sample less now? Do you sample more now? Like specifics of of your studio process. How has that evolved through the years?
I would say I sample just as much as I used to.
Okay.
But I actually play more now.
Right. Okay.
And a lot of times I have songs that I sample and play on top of, or like I'll take parts of the sample that I like and then try to replay it and make my own. But I still sample the hell, and I try to play more. And I went a while where I was buying a bunch of old synths and old gear. And then I got rid of a bunch of stuff and I still have some, but like I still play, as much as I can.
Right on. Some of my favorite beats of yours are actually where you kind of have the licensed sample material from Now Again. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about, and this is a two-part question, and I think you could probably imagine what the second part is, but can you talk a little bit about how you connected with them and like what that relationship is like, where you have several volumes of work where you're making beats out of their amazing archival releases?
Yeah, I met Egon years before I actually started working with Now Again, and then ended up meeting them at South by, and just kind of made a connection through friends, and then it kind of started off there. It's just like, hey, this is what we're doing. Would you ever want to make beats using our samples and try to do some cool stuff? And I was like, yeah. What producer doesn't want a whole catalog's worth of samples that he could use and have clearance for? So that's kind of how it started, and it was kind of like an idea to do library records, using their catalog, and then try to get them licensed and stuff. And the original artists are getting paid and they're happy about it. And, we're all putting our music out there too. So
yeah, and in one very successful case of that, one of those ended up as the theme to Abbott Elementary, one of the best new TV shows to come along in a while. Like, talk to us about that. Was that has to be a pretty big moment for you, right? Your name on TV every week.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of surreal because there's been a lot of almost things that came, over the last couple of years that, didn't see the light of day. And then, so when these things pop up, it's just kind of like, oh, I'm not going to get myself hyped. I'm just like, if it happens, cool. And then so much time passes too, from when you start working on it and then it actually airs. It was like 6 months or something where I totally forgot about it. People were hitting me up like, yo, dog, I just saw your name on this TV show. I'm like, oh yeah, that dropped. Oh, I got to peep it out, So yeah, it's surreal, but like sometimes, we just watched the first, is it one season?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember because they got long seasons on TV. And I used to watching Netflix with some of the shorter seasons, but yeah, I mean, it's really awesome to be a part of it and to do stuff like that. It's kind of like my dream growing up, like, yeah, rap is cool. Doing shows is cool, but like, I really just want to stay home and make beats. And like, it'd be great if my music was on TV, or movies. Like that was always the dream. So to be able to do it, it's awesome.
That's amazing, and a really great TV show at that. Speaking of that, I know that the producer Stro Elliott has a kind of a James Brown licensed project. Madlib has worked with Blue Note before. Like, what's your dream catalog? If you could just crack anybody's, I'll say any artist or labels kind of catalog to work with their samples.
Well, I actually have started working with KPM.
Okay.
And that's like another library catalog.
Yeah.
And producers definitely know. And so that actually was pretty awesome to be able to go through their archives and do what I want. And it's been slow going, but I got kind of held up doing some other projects. And I also have done some things that I can't really talk about.
Okay.
But it was with Universal and involving same kind of things. But yeah, it's also nothing has been official yet. So.
Mm-hmm.
But all of that has come from, kind of being in the game and, from Now Again and like all those connections kind of came through that, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you're doing this. Well, hey, check this out. Like, would you like to do something like this? So it's been great, really.
Awesome. Glad to see it. So you had Sight Unseen, the album I peeped today, which is from 2020. Do you have projects you can actually talk about? Do you have new works on the way?
Yes. I do have a new album similar to Sight Unseen. I'm finishing that up now, doing final mixes and stuff. So hopefully later this year it should be out. And got a bunch of guests on that as well. I've been working on a project with the I Am God. I don't know if you guys heard of him, out of Chicago.
Yeah.
We're doing a thing
Sick.
another with the crew called Highest Low, also from Chicago. Some dudes I've known for a long time, really talented, and I'm happy with all of those what we've been coming up with. And what else? Just started something with a project Hellsent. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's also from G4.
Okay.
And me and Quell been throwing stuff back and forth. What else? I'm missing something. But yeah, I just been trying to stay busy, man. And
yeah,
I just love making music and really want to work with people that I like. Edgewise as well. He's a local homie. I think you guys from San Jose, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. He was on my album, and I really enjoyed how that song came out. So I hit him up and I was like, hey man, let's do a couple songs. So we'll see what happens, see where it goes.
That's awesome.
But I really like what he did with Plattern. That's the homie.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
And sounds like you got a lot in the hopper. We appreciate you coming on and sharing that with us. Maker, thank you so much, man.
All right, thank you guys, man.
All right, that was our conversation with Maker. Want to thank him so much for coming on. Super cool cat.
Super appreciate it when people who don't tend to be interviewed allow themselves to be interviewed by us. Like that's just super cool. Thank you, Maker, for hanging out for a little while, and like we really enjoy talking to you, and we really like your music.
His entire sort of humble demeanor, and hopefully he continues success. It's really cool to see dudes like him get recognition after all these years.
For sure. There's another humble producer, Tall Kid. should be on our underground hip hop hoops team, which we keep talking about, which apparently Zaloopers is going to be the center. But I see this guy getting big minutes off the bench. I'm of course talking about Controller 7, who's got a new record out. Nate, you want to tell the people a little bit about it?
I'm just a fan here. I don't think Dave should talk to us a little bit about the saga to bring Left-Handed Straw to double LP.
Oh, that's right.
All these years.
That's right.
Go straight to the label affiliate here.
The label mogul Dave Ma, please.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna go back to the source, it was actually Controller 7, aka Tommy, who heard an episode of Bod Rap Pod early on, which sort of was the impetus for him to get back into making music.
Yeah.
And him and I sort of just struck up a dialogue. And, a couple years later, I wanted to put out his stuff. And I didn't even want to at first approach him about Left-Handed Straw. I just felt like maybe that was precious or whatever, and we're not even reissue experts. But we talked about it, and we ended up doing it. It took a while. There was a lot of manufacturing delays and whatnot. But, to hear him tweet that this is the definitive version that he's so happy with, and like the artwork and everything just was handled properly, gave me goosebumps, and it was very appreciative to see. And just a little inside baseball. I mean, like, because there are rappers on it and stuff, we have to like call lawyers. We have to call their ex record label and make shit work. Well, Slug is featured on one of the tracks, and we hit up Slug, and Slug's like, send me 2 copies, we're good. You know what I mean?
That's dope.
So it's
that's
like
dope.
No lawyers involved, no anything. Tommy's been cool as fuck, and we have another Controller 7 release coming out soon, which I think will be a perfect bookend to this, because this is sort of his first introductory work, and the other album is an album he's already released, but we're gonna see it and hear it on vinyl soon, and we're very much looking forward to it.
That's dope, man. And just as a left-handed person, thank you all. You know what I mean? It's just been so many years of not knowing how to use these straws. No, I'm just kidding. I think it was on last Friday. Dave, correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like, as a consumer here, that Left-Handed Straw came out on Needle to the Groove, and Right-Handed Straw came out on Buenaventura, which I believe is based in Europe, on the same day. Was there coordination, or was it a coincidence?
Or was it Straw Wars?
There was definite coordination.
Okay.
And actually, I think Nate tweeted out the ambidextrous straw joke, which
I've been mining a lot of material about this. Yes.
That was one of the first jokes lobbed immediately. It was like, he was like, yeah, I'm doing Right-Handed Straw. Can we kind of coordinate with y'all? And we're like, fuck yeah. And to be honest, I mean, agreeing to it is one thing, but having all the stars align, especially due to all the manufacturing setbacks, was nothing short of a little miracle. So we're just really stoked. And the right-handed straw artwork by Cool Chris is incredible.
So sick, dude.
Dope.
Incredible.
So I walked over to Needle to the Groove on Saturday and bought my copy of Left-Handed Straw. It looks amazing. Beautiful jacket, beautiful artwork, heavy jacket and sleeves. It's such a classy product. I've had every iteration of this release. Like I've been listening to it as like MP3s, as a cassette, as a CD, as the if we were not pressed for time, I would walk over to the shelf and grab. There's selected tracks from it called Left-Handed Selections that came out with this really cool silkscreen cover back in the day. So I've had that for many years, and now I have the definitive version, and my version of Right-Handed Straw is on its way from, I believe, Switzerland. So gonna have those on the shelf. And yeah, Controller 7 is very much a friend of the program. He's done some editing stuff for us, some music stuff for us. He's been a guest. He's designed artwork for us. He's just the coolest guy. So super stoked to have these in hand and to be able to play some small part in his musical journey, because I love this music. I really think like he is such a talented producer. He's so good with drums. He has such an interesting ear for humor. And the way that he expresses it, his music is somewhat dark, but there's always little rays of light, and it's just such good instrumental hip hop. And you know what it is, guys? It's fucking cinematic.
Ew. I think if you're playing the cinematic drinking game, you have to down.
If there is a rap album without lyrics, I'm using that word, and I really don't care. I just don't care anymore.
That's fair.
If there are strings.
Yeah, exactly.
You have no choice if there are strings.
Shout out Controller 7, friend of the program, and great to see his trajectory kind of align with
and shout out Alan, Michael, just everyone, JB, everyone associated with Needle to the Groove. You guys are killing it. I went to the record store on Saturday and picked up a nice fat stack, and the record store was busy, and it was busy, and the guys weren't even there because they were out buying 70 boxes of new records. So I saw that. Love seeing that, and just so happy for everyone involved. All my friends are doing like amazing life shit, and it's just fucking inspiring.
Yeah, man, and we're
as are you guys.
Yeah, we're trying. We're keeping it chugging along. I think Controller 7, I ain't gonna spoil it, but he's got other projects lined up with like dope rappers and shit too. That
if people didn't catch it, he's got that little EP with Def C.
Okay, that's did that drop?
It came out. Okay. Well, it came out digitally. I mean,
but y'all should fuck with that.
I think I'm allowed to say I introduced to them. So like,
did you?
I was like, you guys should know each other. It was just a quick email. I was happy to do it, but like to then hear the songs, I'm like, oh shit, like these songs wouldn't exist without me.
Nate's
Nate A&R'd it.
Nate A&R'd
it. Nate and Nard.
Tommy is in the middle of a creative spurt, so it's really good to see, and just to be a small part of the process, like Nate was saying, is just incredible.
Yes, sir. So
what is that called? It's called Absent Minded. Latest release with some Def C tracks. Def C killing it right now, and he's everywhere as well. So anyway, that's out, and
all things Chicago.
Cool, it's done.
All things Controller 7, all within the Bod Rap Pod cinematic universe. You know that you could, I also said cinematic, so you have to drink again. You could find us on Instagram at Bod Rap Pod. You can find us on IG at Bod Rap Pod. But the best way to find us, if you want to be in the club right now, in the club, is to follow us, or not follow us, to subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/DadBodRapPod. Super inside baseball here, but Nate has taken over the reins. The voice that you hear on Patreon now is Nate's, and he has the people in an uproar. Nate is my inbox is ringing off in a way that I didn't know was possible, and I'm like, what is Nate up to now? So
basically I discovered that they have a poll feature, and I'm having a lot of fun with it, like naming the little elements of the poll. That's my new hobby. Yeah, the
Nice.
Patreon is cracking right now. We would love to expand the community. We're very happy and thankful to the people who have joined thus far. It's like the best email we used to get was like a review or like a nice thing someone would say about the podcast, which does happen from time to time, and we really appreciate it. Now it's like, you got a new subscriber. It's like, awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Right.
keep you. I'm gonna engage you.
To death.
Right now,
Yeah,
I have
man.
a poll running about what the best Beastie Boys record is. Spoiler alert, it's Paul's Boutique. Everyone else is wrong. And actually,
If you
the
like
most
samples.
interesting- yeah, and I do. The most interesting part about it is that all these people have this heavy affection for Hello Nasty, which to me is the last good-ish album. It's the first.
I was
it's the
surprised to
last
see that.
non-embarrassing record, right?
I was surprised to see
Yeah,
that, but I think it's
yeah.
also age driven.
That's what I was
this-
gonna say.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it came out when we were seniors in high school or freshmen
When
in
some of
college,
y'all were
somewhere.
seniors in high school.
Yes. When us youngins,
Yeah.
us whippersnaps were still like, oh, Lee Perry, cool, you know, like.
Hey, the
Totally,
only
totally.
rappers to work with Lee Perry. That's crazy. That is crazy. I would like to submit. I'm not a big Hello Nasty guy, but I would like to submit that the first 12 bars of Intergalactic is one of the best intros in rap history.
It is a pretty iconic song, and it has a good
Yeah,
video,
yeah,
and it has a good beat. My cut on there is like the Adam Yauch singer-songwriter song, I Don't Know. Have you listened to that song recently?
Not in a while.
It's a freaking good song, dude. Like, I'm telling you,
Okay,
like if
okay.
if that was a direction that MCA was going to take
Mhm.
his artistry, I would have been very interested in a singer-songwriter record from MCA, RIP. But anyway, we're doing a bunch of what I think is interesting stuff on the Patreon. We're just talking about music. It's really not that complicated. We're making recommendations. We are involving the community in a broader discussion. I did a thing. I just said name an album and I'll tell you what I think about it. It turned into like 5 days of my life.
Yeah.
Italian a cappella music from the 90s. I'm listening to like Diamanda Gallis-esque goth music. Like, I was like, whoa, dude, you guys are throwing some crazy shit at me right now. It was fun. It was really fun. I want to do that again.
So Nate's goth now.
Yeah, pretty
That
much.
explains the black t-shirt.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's all into Motorhead.
Yeah.
Is that eyeliner, Doug?
Yeah. 1 week running the Patreon, he's totally changed. But yeah, you guys should definitely subscribe. It's only $5 a month. We also post special segments. We have a special bonus segment with Small Pro that just went up, and a bunch of other fly goodies that you will get only on our Patreon. But other than that, you know where to get this fly ass content. Do us a favor, like, rate, and subscribe. Also to Patreon, but just generally, like, all of that helps
on your
us.
streaming service of choice. 5 stars.
Yeah.
No
Yeah,
4
please.
stars, no quibbling. Just say nothing if it's not 5 stars. I'm totally serious.
Or do 1 stars and then like really come for us, like really line it up, like really
Maybe
line
we can
it
get a
up.
viral bad review.
Yeah, it's either or. But we appreciate everybody that's been tapping in and listening to the program. And it's every Thursday. It's the Dad Bod Rap Pod.
Thanks for watching that, and if you dug that, leave a thumbs up and say what up in the comments, and make sure to subscribe to Stony Island Audio
Stony Island Audio.
for more.